the questions I'm frequently asked, as an indie game developer who also reviews AAA games, is what I would create if I was given a AAA budget and development team. Well, the first thing I'd create is a new high-interest savings account, into which I would put all of the AAA budget, then I would fire the development team, and go back to making solo indie games. There was a time when the thought of making AAA games held a certain appeal, but I've come to realize that indie game dev is where I want to be, because I find it creatively fulfilling in a way I doubt I would find working as part of a 100-person dev team, even if I was in creative control. What I love about game dev is the process of having an idea and bringing it to life in front of me like a mad god. And that's easy to do in an indie game. Plonk together a sprite, stick it in Game Maker, add some code, run the build, voila! An indistinct blobby thing that goes up and down when you press buttons. I found myself wondering the other day precisely how that works in the AAA realm of today. Just the fundamental process of coming up with an idea and seeing it realized. Now, I've only ever worked on the fringes of AAA, some contract work here and there. I punched up some dialogue for Watch Dogs Legion, but apparently my contribution wasn't enough to justify putting my name in the credits, and believe me, I bloody well checked. So needing the perspective of a AAA professional to satisfy my curiosity, I hit up Tina from DevHeads, who has been all the way up in the AAA weeds in her time, and I asked her the following question. If a high-level designer on a AAA project decided on a whim that a certain NPC in one part of the game needed to be, say, eating a bag of chips, what would be the process of making that happen, and how many people would be involved? And Tina's reply was very detailed, very helpful, and quite enlightening. The first thing that would need to happen, as is so often the case in the corporate world, is a meeting. The designer's producer will schedule a meeting in which the designer can explain what they want done and when they want it done by. That meeting will include other department producers and possibly some art, tech, and animation guys. The way Tina explained it, this meeting will go down one of two ways, depending on how high level a designer we're talking about. If it's more a design by committee situation, then everyone will try to talk them into scaling the idea down as much as possible. We probably don't need full deformation physics on the bag of chips or animate the chips going into the mouth. Could we just have them hold the chips in front of them and play a crunching sound? Does it have to be chips, come to that? Could they be sipping from a can of drink? That'd be easy. Or maybe they could just be staring into space, dreaming of eating a bag of chips. That'd be even easier. Yes, I think we can all agree that's the best way forward. And so creative vision is once again murdered by a very earnest and civilized death of 1,000 cuts. Alternatively, if the designer has some weight to throw around, leadership may just go, all the bells and whistles fully animated exactly as described, surely it can't be that hard, get on it, chop chop. And all the art and tech guys nod and smile and go off feeling slightly nauseous. Let's assume it's the latter scenario. Assuming the game doesn't yet contain a bag of chips asset, the first job that needs doing is a piece of 2D concept art. Yet another producer will commission either an in-house or outsourced artist, and they'll draw up a nice picture of a bag of chips, complete with logo and package information. That will need a rubber stamp from whoever's in charge of keeping the game's visual style consistent, and then another rubber stamp from the legal department, when they've ascertained it doesn't too closely resemble an existing brand. That's best case scenario. Alternatively, somebody might say, hey, why don't we try to sell this as product placement to an actual brand? In which case, this is going to add another boatload of people to the email chain, including the brand stakeholders' own legal and marketing teams, who will want to make sure the bag is being depicted in accordance with their style guide, and that the NPC eating the chips isn't a serial killer or something. And then, what if we want to sell the game in regions where this particular brand of chips isn't available? Now we need the global localization and legal teams on board to get a different brand deal for every part of the world. So once that's sorted out, we can finally get the art team to make a 3D bag of chips prop with some backing and forthing over how close the player's going to get to this thing, and therefore how high quality the texture needs to be. Then the 3D asset gets okayed by someone at tech before getting shunted along the conveyor belt to the animation team. Now hopefully the bag itself doesn't need to animate much, but the NPC eating the chips certainly does, and for that we're going to have to mocap. But assuming the studio already has a mocap studio set up, this might be relatively easy, certainly more so than animating by hand. All you'd have to do is schedule a time to use the mocap stage and make sure all the relevant engineers and cleanup artists are on hand, not to mention the actor. Might as well get some audio guys to record the sound of the actor eating the chips as well for authenticity's sake. But after all that, it'd be pretty easy to just grab a bag of chips from the cafeteria, glue on some sensors, and away you go. Luckily, I didn't arbitrarily pick an action like playing a violin. Oh, hang on a sec. Maybe we've just realized this NPC hasn't thus far been required to talk or open their mouth. That means before the animation can be applied, they need to go to a character artist to model them up a mouth that can be opened, as well as their tongue, teeth, throat, etc. Then a tech artist needs to wriggle that up with bones, and a texture artist's going to spend some time staring at disquieting close-ups of the inside of somebody's mouth. And we also need a potato chip asset for the character to transfer from the bag to their mouth, so add that to somebody's schedule, and maybe some crumb particles that fly out as they eat, so we're bringing in the FX department as well. So now we've got a big box of assets, the model, the textures, the animations, the FX, the metadata, and the audio, and all of that goes to a designer, so they can finally rig it all up in the build with some appropriate scripting. But we're not done yet. The engineers on the performance team are going to have to take a look and assess how much impact this new addition is making on the memory budget. Once they're satisfied, it then goes to the QA team, who will do everything they can think of to fuck with the eating chips animation and report any bugs or or glitches that might occur if, say, the player should happen to be standing on top of the NPC while they're trying to eat, poking them in the ear with a conductor's baton. And that'll about do it. Ready to ship. I asked Tina if she could put a rough number on how many individuals would have to contribute to this process in total, and she said easily 15 on the low end, assuming we're not going with the licensed brand name scenario. She also mentioned that if the NPC eating chips happens to be based on a celebrity, God knows why that would be the case, but hey, maybe it's a Hideo Kojima game, then that number would easily double. As I said, this was all very enlightening, and yet not entirely unexpected. The average dev time for a AAA game has grown to about 3 years, and now we can see why. It all seems so horribly bloated and inefficient, not to mention questionably necessary, considering it's in aid of a detail that a lot of players aren't even going to look at twice, because they're going to move straight on to looking for the highlighted objects in the room they can actually interact with. I know it's a hypothetical that I made up, but you know some process like this had to happen to make the horses go plop-plops in Red Dead Redemption 2. I hasten to add that this isn't necessarily universal. In fact, Tina made sure to tell me that it's not unheard of for designers to go rogue, scrap something together on the down low by themselves and put it in the build without going through the proper channels. This will probably stick out like a sore thumb, create a lot of work for everyone else, and get flagged by QA as a bug. And doesn't that say it all? Individual creative expression isn't a feature, it's a bug. So that's why, speaking as someone who loves making video games and wants to explore them as an art form, I no longer have any interest in working in a AAA environment. Frankly, it all sounds like some kind of ironic hell for people who actually want to express creativity, not being able to break wind without scheduling a production meeting to agree upon the best way forward for projecting flatus from our rectum. Really goes to show that you can't fix inefficiencies by throwing more money at them. Bitch, it's the extra money and resources that create the inefficiencies. When you remove all limitations, you remove all incentive to innovate, find clever solutions, streamline. Many hands do not make light work. It's not a fucking pie-eating contest.
This video is brought to you by PlayTracker, the app that tracks your cross-platform game library, achievements, stats, and more. PlayTracker works by connecting to various gaming platforms and combining all your data in one place. It offers a unified cross-platform social experience, advanced game library labeling and sorting, fun challenges and progression system, and stats about games and the types of players who enjoy them. PlayTracker is for all kinds of gamers, like this one.
My top tags across all platforms are dating sim and psychological horror. I'm sure that says nothing about me as a person.
And this one.
My mate Captain Toe Jam 96 and I have a lot of games in common. We should tackle some challenges together.
And even me! I'm better than all of you. Unite your gaming multiverse with PlayTracker today and join the official Second Wind Guild to unlock exclusive profile decorations by playing games recommended by us, a group of ostensibly professional gamers with allegedly great taste in games. Ooh.